interpretation instructions. The first thing you want to do is locate your interpretation icon. Um, it's located at the bottom right. You'll see a little globe, and then it says interpretation. You want to click on that, and then select your language. So if you want to hear things in English, you'll select English. Now, you see here, there's a close up of what you should see when you're selecting. So you want to select that language, again, English. And then optionally, you want to select your mute original audio. You don't have to do this, but um, if you're hearing two voices at the same time, you might want to try that to rectify the situation. So right now, I'm going to go into Spanish. Hopefully, ok, so ahora voy a explicar la función de interpretación de la plataforma de Zoom. Primero, localice el icono de interpretación, está en la parte inferior derecha de su pantalla. Aquí puede ver una imagen, hay un globito que dice abajo de eso, interpretación o interpretation. Después, seleccione español, Spanish, y aquí es otra imagen donde tú puedes ver las selecciones. Seleccione español. Y si acaso hay un problema con dos idiomas, puede seleccionar Mute Original Audio, que quiere decir apaga el audio original. No es necesario, pero si hay problemas, se puede usar esa opción. Ahora voy a volver en inglés porque ya tenemos interpretación. Gracias. So right now I'm going to go back to English, and I'm going to stop sharing the screen. All right. So before we begin with our introductions, I just want to put out this notice for folks. A good colleague of ours, an indigenous brother, and a longtime friend and ally and comrade of the IITC, Juan Carlos Hintiach, suffered a really bad accident yesterday, and he's right now in critical condition. Some of you may know him from his long work in the UNFCCC process. But the community and the organization that Juan Carlos is affiliated with, sometimes we call him Wanka, is Koika, and they've been asking for some prayers and good thoughts to be sent his way in the Ecuadorian Amazon. So I just wanted to mention that before we begin and really send out good energy and prayers to him and strength to his family while they're going through this crisis. So right now, I want to begin by introducing our first speaker, Rochelle Diver. She's from the Fond du Lac Band of Ojibwe. She's an IITC Environmental Health Program Coordinator, and she's calling in from Minnesota. She'll be doing the introduction. So, Rochelle, when you're ready, please unmute. You have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberto. Bonjour, Anine, and warm greetings to everyone. As Roberto said, I'm Anishinaabe. I'm a citizen of Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior, Ojibwe, and I'm joining you today from Dakota Territory in Minneapolis. I'm pleased to be offering the opening remarks on behalf of IITC today. This webinar sits very close to my heart. Manomen, or wild rice, is a sacred plant to the Anishinaabe, and it's how our ancestors came to steward the lands that we currently live on today. They followed 7 sacred stopping places until they found where the food grows on water, which was going to be our new home. So here we are today honoring that food and those plants and those processes. Last year on June 10th, IITC, along with 3 Fire Society and United Tribes of Michigan, hosted a virtual gathering to protect, defend, and honor the wild rice. The event was titled Giziga Naran Minomen. Let's take care of the Minomen. The gathering brought together Indigenous practitioners and traditional knowledge holders, as well as food sovereignty, environmental health, treaty, and cultural rights advocates to discuss the significance of wild rice for the Indigenous peoples and nations who wild rice is at the core of. We still plan to hold an in-person event. It was virtual because of COVID-19 for the safety of all of our people. We didn't want to skip it. We wanted to ensure we still brought people together, but we want everyone to know that we still plan to have this gathering, and we hope to have a robust participation of wild rice and non-wild rice peoples coming together to honor that Minoman. If you want more information about that, you can feel free to contact me directly at rochelle@treatycouncil.org, or please visit IITC.org under the Environmental Health and Food Sovereignty sections. I will leave you with an excerpt from the outcome document of the Wild Rice Conference. We acknowledge that our food sovereignty is based on our fundamental relationships, responsibilities, and rights to our lands, territories, plants, seeds, animals, water, and other essential life-giving elements that we pledge to support and protect. The abundance of nature's biodiversity is defined and nurtured in the cultural understandings, languages, and ancestral practices that have sustained us as Indigenous peoples since time immemorial. With that, I will say Chimigwich, many thanks, and turn it back to my brother Roberto and to the distinguished panel of knowledge keepers and knowledge holders we have today. Miigwech.
Thank you so much, Rochelle, for providing that introductory remarks. Thank you for sharing about the conference, and I really enjoyed the last one that was held, and I learned a lot of things. So I encourage others to keep an eye out and really participate next time you hear about that one. It was really interesting and great to learn about wild rice and all the initiatives happening in that area. So right now I want to turn to our next speaker, Amy Juan. She's from the Tohono Nation. She's the IITC Tucson office manager, and she's calling in from Arizona. So Amy, welcome. When you're ready, please unmute. You have the floor.
Okay. It's good dash. What's up, Amoy? Good day, everybody. Ani Jugik me Amy Juan. Jab Kamahi Amija strict objection down on the nation. You judge and you all go up Jujigik Romelda Miguel to Sylvester Juan. And you got Junior Was go up Jujigik Mary Melissa Miles but Daniel Juan but and you heard Junior Bob up Jujigik Mary Elizabeth Miguel but Lawrence Miguel but and you will not got Elijah Kristen Ross and you will magam or you will magam and you autumn jigik or Domak Donadic. So good day. Good to be here with everybody. Just introducing my family, my clans. I'm from the Buzzard clan, and also my autumn name is Domak Donadic, which is Milky Way Light. And again, an honor to be here with amazing women doing good work around traditional food. So today I'm excited to share about some of our foods that we harvest as autumn. We're in springtime here in the desert, the Sonoran Southwest desert. And I know that sometimes people think that there's not much to eat out here, being that we are in a desert, we have very little water. And you know, it is interesting to see the changes that are happening on the land, you know, because we have this intimate relationship and we look forward to all the wild foods that are you know, have been given to us. And right now in the spring, we're looking forward to Jordan harvest, which is choya buds from the choya cactus. We harvest those coming up soon, and community members are keeping a lookout for them. And it's interesting to hear what they have to say. There's some areas that they haven't seen any buds coming out. There's some that, you know, they're on their way. And so, you know, as a community, we're communicating about you know, the harvest. We also are looking forward to harvesting mesquite beans. We harvest the mesquite pods to make drinks and to make flour that has a similar taste to graham crackers, if you will. Also wild spinach. There's a variety of wildflowers that are out right now that I enjoy looking at on my drive to work every morning into Tucson. And also, you know, seeing the changes in them too. So I actually have a video to share today. This video was produced by Donautum Community Action with an elder whose name is Christine Johnson, the late Christine Johnson, and she's gonna share with us more about choya buds, and then I'll be back to talk a little bit more about the foods and what's happening in the community right now.
Can you see the video pop up?
Yes.
Okay.
Round and round you go into my basket. And pretty soon I'm gonna have my basket full of children. Then the coyote will come after me and he will not get nothing because I would have already gotten all the children. What it means that you are supposed to get up early in the morning and you're supposed to go out there before anybody else. Maybe you're the coyote, maybe you don't get up till 10 o'clock and then you come after me and I'm already done picking the children. My name's Christine Johnson and I'm out here in the mountains of Nordic and I'm picking children.
Each spring, the flower buds begin to appear on the tip of the buckthorn choil cactus throughout the Sonoran Desert. To harvest these delicious and nutritious foods, use a pair of tongs to carefully pull the buds off of the cactus. Traditionally, tongs were made from split saguaro ribs, but today, many people use metal kitchen tongs. Be sure to stand upwind to avoid getting covered with tiny thorns. Once you pick the jordan, it must be cleaned. Sift the buds across a metal screen. The small thorns will fall through the holes in the screen, leaving clean jordan. Tossing the jordan in the breeze will help give a final cleaning. The fresh buds can be boiled for an hour. Once boiled, they can be eaten, or laid out in the sun for a few days to dry for later use.
You try to do this every year so that they won't be upset at us because he made this for us to eat. A lot of people are out there, I hope, getting children because it's a real healthy food for our diet. And I know a lot of people are with diabetes and this is good stuff for them. I myself am a diabetic, so I try to get as much as I can. So it'll be my food for the year.
Our elders knew jordan is very healthy. It is low on the glycemic index and helps regulate blood sugar levels and has more calcium than milk. It is one of the desert's superfoods.
I hope that that you're with me on this, picking your children or whatever there is out there for us to eat, and because I said earlier in there that there's a saying that they say that Ethan's gonna get mad at you or get upset at you because he made it for us. And look at how we are now today. We're not healthy because we have let those things go that is our own food. We didn't teach our children, we didn't teach our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren now. And I hope that you are teaching your children to start back on this path of our lives as O'odham people, as our Himandak, that they will learn to eat these things and make their taste buds accept them, and so they can be healthy and don't have to have diabetes and other things that we do when we left our foods. And so the little blessing is supposed to encourage us to go out and do this and be an example for everybody, not only our own people but other people. And we can share with them the things that are good for our lives.
Thank you, Chris, for showing the video. So that was a little glimpse into what our Jordan harvest looks like. And, you know, as desert people, we eat a lot of cacti, not only the Jordan, but also baidach, which is the saguaro fruit. We use that to make jams and syrups, and also to make wine for our rain ceremonies. But the Jordan is really special. We keep an eye on them because they have a short harvesting period. They're actually the flower buds of the cholla cactus, and so we want to harvest them before the flower buds open. So we had to keep a close eye on them, and you know, that's what we're doing now. And then once we harvest them, like Taro said in the video, you have to be really careful and watching. Every time I watch this video, I'm reminded of how you know, some of the lessons that we learn by living in the desert, especially if you live around a lot of cactus and you're out there harvesting food. You had to be really observant. You had to be really careful and intentional about your footsteps, because if you've ever gotten a cholla cactus stuck to you, it's really painful. Amongst other things, you know, just living in the desert, we have a lot of rattlesnakes and things like that. But with the cholla buds, like Taro mentioned, they're really nutritious, low in the glycemic index, but also they have twice as much calcium as milk. So that was how we got our calcium before we were introduced to cow milk or other forms of calcium. An 8-ounce glass of milk, Jodam has, or I believe it was a tablespoon of Jodam has about just as much calcium as an 8-ounce glass of milk. So it's a superfood. And there's different ways to process it. If you're harvesting fresh, you can cook them, boil them, and then freeze them, or you can boil them and lay them out in the sun to dry, and they'll last, you know, pretty much forever, for a long time. And we do that with a lot of our foods, you know, to keep them long lasting. Drying is a big part of our food process. We also dry a lot of squash and things like that. And the Jordan, there's I guess some way to describe the taste. Is it similar to asparagus? Like the texture of asparagus with the sliminess of okra. It's a little sour, but there's different ways to make it. My favorite way that I grew up eating was sauteed with onions and tomatoes and sometimes some chili, and just let it cook down really good, really tasty. There's also different ways that people have, I guess, created recipes. I've had Jodam on pizza. I've had pickled hot chili Jodam, Jodam in salads and things like that. And for myself, growing up around the traditional foods, I remember that I didn't like it in the beginning because of that texture and because of that taste. But the more that, you know, I'm thankful that my family made it a regular dish at our gatherings, our food gatherings, and that my grandmothers took the time to teach me how to harvest and how to process and how to cook them. And now it's one of my favorite traditional foods to look forward to. And you know, we also had the honor of learning from our elders, like Christine Johnson, but like Danny Lopez, but who was singing in the video. And I'm happy to share that, you know, so much work has happened over the past 10, 15 years since that video was produced in our community. And some of those concerns that Christine Johnson had are being addressed by the hard work of organizations like Donatim Community Action, Aho CSA, Santa Vera Co-op Farm, and communities, and especially young people who are right now actually preparing to create videos that we can share with the community to get everyone excited about our upcoming Jordan harvest. So I was happy to share that with you, and thank you for your time and listening. Sapo.
Thank you so much, Amy, for sharing that little insight into your culture. I really enjoyed the video. I'm sure everyone else did as well, and I just enjoyed the also the little sharings in there, especially about the coming before the coyote, having to get up early and making sure that you're not the coyote getting up at 10. I think
Yeah.
that's great, and also all that that you've shared about the connections to that wild harvest and our health as Indigenous peoples, and so that was really great. Right now, I want to go. Thank you once again, Amy. I want to go to our next speaker. I have the pleasure of introducing Monique Sonoquie. She's Tongva and Chumash. She's a traditional gatherer and basket weaver, and she's calling in from California. So, Monique, when you're ready, please unmute yourself. You have the floor. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Ayukui now, Iwiswin Chuck. I am currently on Pomo territory today in Northern California, and I'm just grateful to be here to learn from my relatives. And I'm going to share with you today a PowerPoint. And if we can pull that up. So I live and work in California, and I work with several nonprofits, including the International Treaty Council. And the nonprofit that we're kind of getting up on. The nonprofit that I started is called the Indigenous Youth Foundation. And there we go. But today I'm going to talk to you about Thule Kawius in the Chumash language. And so Thule is a reed. It can grow up to like 12, 15 feet tall. And it grows by waterways, so ponds, lakes, lagoons, rivers. And we use it for all sorts of things in California. Most communities, indigenous communities, use Thule in California. So there's some images of it. Go ahead and, actually, before you turn the page. So Thule, it's multi-use. You can eat the seeds. You can see the heads of the Thule there. You can dry them and roast them or boil them and dehydrate them and use them for baking. You can, we use the stalks there for making several things. And you could also eat the roots and the rhizomes that are in the ground. And again, drying them, pounding them, cooking them. They taste kind of potato-ishy. So next slide. And so this is my nonprofit, the Indigenous Youth Foundation, and we are founded by 3 Native women. And we started in Santa Barbara, California, and we move around California up as far as the Yurok Reservation in Northern California. And we started in 1999, and our work is about teaching youth culture, history, oral histories, language, songs, traditional foods and medicines, arts and crafts, and environmental education. We have done documentaries and publications, a children's book, and we also work like with sacred sites protection. And we also teach classes in communities, in public schools and universities, at conferences. Next slide. And so I normally give a presentation on a lot of different traditional foods. And so here's some of them. We eat them at culture camps. And again, we take youth out to gather different kinds of medicine. So this is just one of the panels of the PowerPoint that I usually teach. But again, today I'm just going to talk about Thule. Next slide. So here's some images of Thule. You can see how tall it is. And to the right is an image of a traditional Thule hut. And so it's made of Thule and willow. The foundation is made of willow, and the Thule is literally wrapped around the willow poles. So it helps that it's really tall. You want to gather for this, you want to gather Thule in the fall when the Thule is fully mature and full grown. And then I'm also wearing a Thule skirt. Next slide. And so on the left is a Thule skirt up close, and in the middle are Thule dolls. Those are actually pomo ducks, bird dolls, sorry. And then on the right is a duck decoy made out of Thule. And so traditionally you would make the decoy and then you would cover it with a duck skin, put it out on the water and let it float. And it told the other ducks in the area that, oh, there's ducks down there, so it's safe to land. They'd come in and you can take them out with a bow and arrow or a trap or a net, those kinds of things. Next slide. And this is on the left is a traditional Thule boat. And so they were used on rivers and lakes. And then the green boat is, I went to a Pomo Thule boat festival. They have annually every year. And this is one of the boats that the Pomo group built. And it's a little bit different than a traditional boat because really it's a big competition. So we want to try to build boats that are going to be the fastest, not necessarily the ones that are, are going to be easy to move through the channels. So, but just to know that people are still building Thule boats and they're still going out and gathering and fishing. And that's a fresh Thule boat. And so the Thule is buoyant because it is airy. It's full with air holes throughout it. And it is lightweight and it's going to be waterproof. So they're perfect for boats and for houses. And you'll see in the next slide, there is, and so actually Thule is used around the world. So boats are around the world, different countries, different indigenous peoples use Thule for boats and houses and things like that. So this slide is part of some of the groups from the Indigenous Youth Foundation that we do. So we're out gathering Thule, and you can see how tall that is. I think that's Josh holding that, and he's got to be 6 feet tall. So that's growing pretty deep. It grows in the on the outsides of the water. So lots of times you get muddy in there gathering. And in these right in the center image, there's some Thule baskets at the top. So you can see that. And then on the far right is a Thule mat. And those are some of the youth that we work with, making Thule mats and Thule baskets and things like that. And we actually have a Thule camp that we would do a few days, or we'd go out and gather the first day and then let it dry and then weave the next day. And Thule, I like teaching with Thule because it's really easy to manage, to bend, and it doesn't break easily. And you could actually finish a small Thule basket in a few hours usually. So it's easy to teach youth and people that have never woven before. Next. So on the left is a traditional Thule baby basket that's made with Thule and willow. The frame is out of willow. And then my niece Eva was having a baby, so I was teaching her how to make the Thule mat. And then there's baby in her Thule basket, and this is a 10-day-old basket. A lot of tribes, indigenous communities make 2 baskets, one for when the baby's 10 days old, or when the umbilical cord comes off. So it's a smaller basket. And then they use the other basket, like on the left, for when baby gets older. And I know the Yuroks actually have even a larger baby basket. So baby can be raised in their baby baskets. And it depends on where you live and which tribe and what materials they use. But we Chumash use the Thule, and it's really soft, it's real pliable. And I've helped raise children in their baby baskets up until they're like 2 years old. The baby baskets are real safe. We use them in the bed so baby can sleep between you and you don't have to worry about rolling over or anything like that, because they're very cushioned and they're very safe. And I've heard the Yuroks, they make their baby baskets out of hazel, which is a stick versus a reed. So they're really, really sturdy. And I've heard several stories from people that have gotten dropped or a car accident and they get thrown out of the car and baby is not hurt at all. So, again, using those traditional methods is really, really important. They're scientifically safe, and proven to be very useful. Next slide. And I will slow down. I'm sorry about the translation, I forgot. So this is an example of an old Thule mat that I was the THPO, the Tribal Historic Preservation Officer for the Wiyot tribe in Northern California. And this is a Thule mat that a family found in their attic and donated it. So it's, I believe, over 100 years old. And we got a grant to do Thule mat making with the tribe because nobody was doing that at the time. And so I'm getting, sorry, I'm getting, okay, yes, sorry. So when I was out trying to gather a gathering sites that was easy to access for youth and elders, I was given a ticket by a federal officer, but I was gathering on state land. And so it never went farther than the ticket. It kind of miraculously disappeared, to be honest with you. So that's an issue that a lot of us face, that our gathering sites are on state or federal lands or private properties. And lots of times, if we can't get permission, we just jump fences. And this was actually just on the side of the road. So yeah, so that's an issue. And I know a lot of people that have gotten tickets and have to go to court or have to pay fines. Next slide. So this is a project I'm working on right now, and it is for a floating filtration system. And it's going into a lagoon in Marin County, which is north of San Francisco. And I'm working with the Galenas Watershed Council. And so the object is to put these floating islands, they're biofiltration systems, into the lagoon, which has toxins and algae and E. coli in it from the geese. And this lagoon has been blocked off from its natural flow of water and cemented around, so it doesn't have a lot of oxygen or water flowing through. So the council came to me and asked me to do a sample of what I thought would be, local traditional materials. And so we put this together. The foundation is bamboo, because bamboo floats and it can carry a lot of heavy materials. So the object is to create an island and put soil and plants in there that will, the roots will come through the bottom of the flotation system and help clean up oxygen, clean up the toxins and bring in oxygen and into the waters. So this is the foundation that I built. And then I've woven in willow, large willow sticks about 6 feet in through the bamboo. So it's a basket style. And then in the next slide, you'll see that I created a large Thule basket / mat size. So it ended up being 6 feet wide in the middle. You can see I can lay in it. And I brought the sides up to help hold in the plant materials that we put in. So that would go layered, the bamboo, the willow, and then the Thule on top of it and into the water. And next slide, or one more slide. So we actually found an organization that makes these on a mass level, the floating islands. And so now we're trying to incorporate the traditional local plants into their floating islands. So this is the floating island that we're going to introduce. And you can see the yellow part is the Thule that I'm going to add on around it and bundles so that it will keep the soil and the plants in. So I'm pretty excited about that project because you know, it can be used, the ideal can be used in any body of water that has pollution in it or is needing some kind of, you know, plant materials around it. If it's just, you know, even just an eyesore, adding these floating islands will help beautify as well as bring back the traditional plants. I think that's the last slide. So I want to thank you for listening to my presentation and really just ask you to focus, to look around and see where you are and see what wild plants and grasses grow, and look at your ecosystem, and you know that it's about not just, you know, people, but for the birds and animals, and it's their food and their plants and their home and their, you know, protection. So it's really important to support these ecosystems so that one, you know, Native people, we have some place to go because they're very hard to find clean locations, but also for the plants and the animals and the environment itself. Waka.
Thank you so much, Monique, for that wonderful presentation. I love the photos, love seeing the work of the um, Indigenous Youth Foundation. Great. Nice to see those early photos of you too in there. Wonderful to see the trajectory of work over the years. And also, just a great story about the jumping fences. I know as Indigenous peoples who engage in this kind of work, a lot of us could probably relate to that and having to access some of our traditional resources in that way through fences. So that was really great. And that last project was fascinating. But thank you so much once again. And right now, I want to introduce our last speaker. Have the great pleasure and honor to introduce Hinewirangi Kohu. She's Maori. She's the founder and director of Te Whanau o Te Aroha. She's the vice president of the IITC board of directors, and she's calling in from Aotearoa or New Zealand. Hini, great to see you. When you're ready, please unmute yourself. You have the floor.
Kia ora koutou, mihi atu kia koutou tēnei wā. I want to share a PowerPoint with you, and I'm going to just do that right now. That can oh no, wait, share. Help.
That's okay.
Okay.
It's coming. There it is.
There you go. I want to share with you how we view what my work is within the rongoa, which is of course our healing plants. My job and my work has been, if you can see down the right hand side in that photograph, is the back of my house. One of the things that colonialism has done to us is destroyed all our forests. They've destroyed our rainforest in the south, in Kohu, and basically replanted the forests with Pinus radiata, as because they wanted fast-growing wood for their railway. In doing that, then they destroyed the bases of our gathering or of our rongoa, our healing trees and medicine trees. But we view the trees as the gift of the atua, the gift of the goddesses, the gift of our ancestors. So in the backyard of my little quarter acre, I teach our people how to grow the great Kodi, how to grow all of the trees in order, because we cannot go anywhere to find this. And if we do, it's so inaccessible that we can't access. So we have to bring them home to our backyards where they can't remove it or remove us. So it's a very, very political thing. We have all of these beautiful undergrowth we have that we use ange, that we use what we call the old man's beard. This one has been used medicinally for at least 1,600 years. Okay? And what it contains, it will help with the lungs, with your respiratory, with your urinary tract, with candidias. And, you know, because for a long time, we didn't have half of the illnesses that the Europeans brought with their way of life. I mean, like diabetes, like heart diseases. Maori in this country has the highest. There's nothing in our rongoa plants that will take care of what we call Pākehā or Europeans' illnesses. So we try. The most useful one for us is kawakawa. It's a blood purifier, it's a tonic, it looks at, or you know, the digestive disorders. And for babies, we can give them a little drink of it in order to take care of colic and things like that. So all these are undergrowth of the great forest. This is one of our most important medicines. It's called the Mamaku. Again, this is another colic drink for our babies. And it's a really good way to get out of giving them milk, because, you know, we try to get away from cow milk, because, you know, the cow milk is for cows, babies that stand up straight away. And we give them cow milk? So we don't, we try to. This man, Hohepa Kiriopa, was one of the greatest tohunga or medicine man. And I trained under him. And he said, take it home, grow it, teach your people to grow. So this big, beautiful Mamaku stands in my forest at home. And I look at it every day and I use it medicinally when people need to use it. So I'm teaching people how to grow this in their own backyard. Because in Aotearoa, it's not as big as those wonderful pieces of Monique. I tell you what, we have the same plant that we call it ropo. The Thule, we call it ropo. And we made our houses and our waka or our boats around the same way that you talk of ropo. And I just think I connect to that, you know, because we have that same plant. So we've got indigenous plants that are indigenous to everyone. So this is one of the most beautiful. You cut the outer thing of that koru, that's beautiful shape, that's on the top of the tree, and then you slice it in thin slices and put it into water and have it as a drink. But again, we had what we call the Tohunga Suppression Act of 1907, which banned all of us from practicing our natural medicines in this country. And it's still in place. Yeah. And so we still fight to absolutely have our tohunga. And there are those that are working with the rongoa, working with the medicines. Mine is just to teach people how to grow it and keep it in their backyard so that it's accessible and it grows for our children to see and to do that wonderful ability to go and pick and understand that rongoa or that healing plant. So we also have at my front yard, the pāharakeke, which is another medicinal plant, but it's also our weaver. Our weavers use it constantly for what we got. As what we have are same things for our babies in their little cradles. We have what we call he wahakura. It's a beautiful weaved basket for our babies to sleep and safe. And that's through the pāharakeke. That's on the right on the bottom. The pāharakeke is also in the root systems works. You grate the roots down, put it into water. It's bitter as, so you put honey into it. And but it's good for arthritis. Okay, so the plant all the way up has a healing process. It makes our baskets, it makes our clothing. It gives us the muka. The muka is the base of linen. And it's a really important thing to make our cloaks, beautiful, beautiful cloaks that we wear with is made from that plant. So it's an important plant, and it's called the pa because it's like a family tightly woven all together. And on the right-hand side, that big picture is again in my forest at the back of my house. So that our people. I want to show you something in the next picture. Have you ever seen a tree in her moon time, menstrual time? On the left-hand side, have a look at this wahine. She's a woman. You cannot say no to me. This is a woman tree in her moon time. It's a Banksia healing tree from Australia. When Youth-a-Yindi, a Australian band, came to support us in the Treaty of Waitangi, they stayed with me, and one of the elders had a sticky, just put it in the ground, and there she is, fully grown, a medicine tree, but she's in her moon time, so you can't touch her at the moment. She's in her tapu, or in her sacred. He wahine, he tapu. The trees teach us these lessons as well about us as women in her moon time. Her river flows. She's the central tree in my forest at the back of my house. I grew this forest with my mokopuna, my grandchild, Cain. My work with healing plants is to teach our people how to grow a forest in their backyard, rather because the trees are disappearing for Pinus radiata and human greed. So that's a look at trees do have moon time. It's a real special tree for me. It's my connection with the Indigenous peoples of Australia. So in my backyard, we have Cody, the tuakana, the oldest, that gives us healing in many ways. But just being the oldest and the most beautiful. In the middle picture is kawakawa, and it is that gentle, loving kawakawa gives us relief in our puku, in our stomach. Then on the right side, we Rilimu, majestic. Each needle, like the great cedar, are the conductors of the cosmic energy. Besides all of that, it's just the most beautiful. Ka whawhai tonu mātou, we will fight forever to preserve the rich inheritance left to us by Tupuna, the ability to live in our natural world and know we are the Taino, we are the youngest born. The natural world is our elders. The natural world are our brothers and our sisters, are our healing trees and plants. We're all born before us. And so getting to know not just what the plants represent for us as Maori or as the Indigenous nations of Aotearoa is our connection back to all of the gods and goddesses that we know within our cultural traditional knowledge, and to connect our people back, even if it's just to come and sit in the forest, to feel that need to be held and to be, is another rongoa. It's not just in, it's also sitting in the beauty of a natural growing forest in your backyard. And who can say, I go out and hug a kōri, our tuakana, our elders, every day. Kia ora koutou, I know that we will keep fighting and we will keep teaching. So tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. E mihi atu kia koe, Roberta, kia ora.
Wow, thank you so much. I love the presentation, Hine. Well, I always love to listen to you and when you share about your culture. It's so inspiring, and I can see that many people are inspired and sharing some good comments in the chat. Uh, I love the teaching of the trees, and that you really started the conversation by reminding us all of the effects of colonialism, really calling that out right in the beginning and how it affects all of our peoples and our ability to engage and learn from our ancestors, as Monique shared, jumping fences and the inaccessibility of some of our sacred relatives, and how you brought that to your home and used that as a teaching, as a base for teaching. It's really, again, so inspiring. I thank you so much, and I thank all of our speakers for the really wonderful presentations today. I know I learn so much every time we have one of these gatherings, these virtual gatherings, where we share all these type of teachings. And today, being a Taino and somebody who is very interested in these subjects, it was just a real pleasure for me. So right now, I just want to open it up for questions. I know we have some questions already in there. There's one from Janine Anton. This one's directed to Hine. Uh, she says, "Are your healing plants shared with non-Maori?"
I have to say that our elders, our tupuna, our ancestors said this thing, aroha ki te tangata katoa, meaning love to every person, every people. It doesn't matter. They did not say aroha ki te tangata Maori anake. They did not say it's only for Maori. No, they belong to people if people want to know. But they can't copyright it or try to do, which they've tried to do. Let me tell you.
Yes,
Try to think that they own kawakawa, for instance, and try to copyright the whole thing. Well, get off the grass, that's not going to happen.
Exactly right. And I think there's so many examples of that around the world where traditional knowledge, indigenous people have been open to sharing. But as we talked about colonialism, this the other ism that affects us all, in a very negative way at times, is capitalism as well, where these folks just try to be greedy about what's to be shared. And so I thank you for letting us know. Here's a question for Monique that just came in. Would you know if the Thule plant is the same that is used in Peru in Lake Titicaca?
Yeah,
I believe
I've
it
been there.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I've seen their boats too. So
I've been on Lake Titicaca to have a look at that floating islands, and that way they look at their lake because it's so high up. And it is exactly the same as what we have at home, Ropo, which is exactly what you have as Thule. Beautiful.
Amazing the connections worldwide in these things. And I just wonder also, you know, um, something that came to my mind, because I don't see another question coming in, but there was something that Rochelle mentioned in the beginning about that some of the ancestors stopped at 7 places. And I know we have stories that feature seven, and it relates to the stars and the Pleiades and different things. And do you also see connections with those type of stories, the connection with the stars and the universe, with plants and the cycles? Is that something also, because we see it in our Taino culture? I know we have that. Yes. So
We
is
have
that
it too.
yeah.
We have it as well, and it's called Matariki, and it's the mother and 7 stars. We have Waiatan song, and it's how we base on the Matariki. We base our new year starting in June, because that's when the stars, when they come, that family come. It's the 7 sisters, or the 7, 1 mother and 6 sisters. So Matariki is really, really important.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Rochelle or Monique or Amy, are there any other similar stories like that, or is that stopping at 7 places, Rochelle? Does that have to do with the stars also?
Well, it comes from our 7 fires prophecy. So we know that as Anishinaabe, we were originally saltwater people. We came from the coast because we have Anishinaabe Moan words for saltwater animals. So our 7 fires prophecy warned us of danger. It warned us of death. And it gave us the guidance to follow the 7 sacred stopping places, which were actually marked by migas shells. So we knew we had come to a sacred spot when we came to the first shell. And that at the end of that, after 7 of them would be where the food grew on water. And actually the Anishinaabe have been trying to reacquire those traditional lands so that we can put back those stepping stones and we can continue to honor those traditional lands in that pathway. And yeah, absolutely, we know that that's a connection to all of our brothers and sisters being watched over by the Creator, and we look for those signs with other peoples and know that those are the things that keep us all together in the end.
Thank you so much. I know there's I don't know if Monique has anything to add, but there is a question for Amy coming in. So Amy, the question is, do you know if the fruit from the cactus that you meant that you harvest is similar to the pitaya from Baja California?
Yes, it is. They look a little different. I believe the variety that you're talking about is grows on the organ pipe cactus, and we do have some to the west of us in the Organ Pipe National Monument Park and the O'odham. So there's different bands, if you will, of O'odham. I'm from the Tohono O'odham Nation, and we also have Akimura O'odham, Angakimura O'odham, Akchin O'odham, Hiachir O'odham, and that would be Hiachir O'odham territory on that side. And I personally haven't harvested the chichuis, that's what it's called in O'odham. The fruit from the saguaro, from the hashin is bailich, and then the fruit from the organ pipe cactus is chichuis. But like I said, I haven't harvested it myself, but I have heard that it's very similar. It looks very similar. I'm curious about the taste and also what our relatives make with it, I think, as well as jams and syrups and things like that. And I saw another question come in about what type of cactus we harvest the choya buds from, or the chorin from, and it's staghorn choya. There's different kinds of choya. There's pencil choya, there's teddy bear choya, but the specific choya that we harvest the chorin from is staghorn choya.
Great. I am looking to see if there's another question that might come in. And while folks are thinking about that, oh, here you go. What is good to keep your immune system strong? So this is a really important question during these times. So any recommendations from the panel, anyone in the panel to boost our immune systems during this time?
It depends on where that young person is coming from, because it would depend on the plant life in that country, because the plant life in our country, I would say Kawakawa, Texas. There you go, Amy.
Yes.
You're the closest.
Well, for us in this region, creosote or greasewood, we call shugi. We believe that it was the first plant in creation, and the more I learned about it as I grew up, I was, we were told that it was our first plant in creation. And when I learned a little bit more about like the ethnobotany of it, I was really surprised to learn that shugi doesn't grow by seed; it grows by cloning itself. So there's actually king plants, and then the families grow around it. And I thought that really related to our stories. But that was a very important plant. It is still a very important plant that we burn, like sage or sweetgrass, but we also make teas. In the time of the pandemic, I caught COVID in June, and my traditional medicines were really, really, really helpful. I really attribute shugi tea and shugi steams, as well as hirwa juice or wild rhubarb, that I used to kind of cleanse my my sinuses, and also to do steams, but also to actually like snort the fluid so that it could clean out my sinuses and come out. And I'm really thankful that I got my full taste and smell back, and I really attribute it to our traditional medicines. So creosote or greasewood for our area.
I'm in California. I got COVID too before it was COVID, and was trying everything, you know, I could do, because I was traveling, and I finally got home on the 4th day thinking I'm gonna die or I have to go to the hospital. And I got in my house, I looked around, what couldn't I buy, you know, where I was at. And the plant that I pulled was mugwort or wormwood. And so it grows on the river bars again, you know, lakes, all sorts of places, even on the coast. And I grabbed a handful of that medicine because I really thought that was it. And it was like 11 o'clock at night. I'd just flown in and got home and took that medicine and put it in my mouth and said, okay, you know, I made a deal. If I'm going to go with medicine in my mouth. And if I wake up alive, I'll go to the hospital. Well, I woke up alive the next morning, but I woke up better, like significantly better, like 25% better. And the key was, you know, taking that plant. And I like to just chew on my plants. They're very bitter. They're hard to do. Nobody likes to do it, but it's the quickest way to get into your blood system. And especially if you've got something going down your throat, because I had every symptom, the worst possible scenario, you know, that they talk about. That's where I was at. So that's the only thing I could do was suck on that medicine. And after 4 days, I was better. The other medicine I used to breathe in for the steam in the lungs is, how do you say it in English? Yerba Santa mountain balm. And that's a plant that grows in the desert and in the mountains. In Southern California, it's really sweet and sticky. So I prefer that. In the Northern California, in the mountains, it's dry and bitter. So that one, making a steam and breathing it in and drinking the tea. So after 4 days of using that medicine, I was completely better. However, I was really weak for 2 weeks, still had trouble walking and things like that. And then and I'm telling you all this because it's very important. For about 4 months, I still kept getting the tightness in the chest. So every day, because it hadn't really been after, this was in the end of November in 2019. So it was like 2 months before they even started talking about it. And so I was afraid. It's like, am I still sick? Am I contagious, you know? Because that was the biggest fear, is getting anybody else sick. Because like mere mortals would have died, right? And so after about 4 months of nothing working, I started reaching for everything outside of other traditions that I've learned. And I learned Tai Chi and Qigong, and I used to teach it. And one of the things we used to do is healing sounds. So vibration, yeah, singing and movement. So I put together this, and I'll post it too, this thing about the lungs and the colors and the elements and the sounds that you breathe, and brought it in. And after about 2 weeks of that, all the symptoms were gone. And I haven't had anything after that. But that lasted about 4 months, you know, the lung thing, until I was able to heal that. So we definitely have our medicines. And if you don't know your medicines where you're at or can't gather them, you know, jump online and Google it. And see what grows where you are, or purchase it. You don't have to buy, you know, that medicine if you don't grow it, you know, because it's about your health. So even after that, I used a lot of my medicine and I started sending it to people. And I even ordered some online because I hadn't thoroughly prepared to be able to send it to, you know, 20 people, right? And drop off medicine and use it. Because normally I use the mugwort for pain. You can put it topically, you can drink it, you can breathe it in. So that's really important to think about. Don't feel bad if you don't know it or if you can't grow it yourself. And also, all you need to do is like Google natural remedies for the lungs, for immune system. And one of my friends who I will give a shout out to, because does a lot online, is Linda Black Elk. And she does a lot of traditional herbs. So I send her a lot of my herbs, and I follow her because she is sending out food boxes and traditional medicine and traditional herbs to elders in North and South Dakota. So, and she has a really great Facebook page. So I definitely would recommend her, Linda Black Elk.
Thank you so much. There is another question that had come up. There was actually two. One is about a book of plants, and where can you pick up one of the plants that Hine spoke about, and the other one is about asking about a particular hempweed vine. Um, these the botanist name, I guess, is in there. If any of the panelists might know something about that vine, and also Hine, is there a book about your plants, and where can we get the kawa kawa
Mhm.
from? Any, if there's if
You
any.
can go online. Go online and just type in kawakawa medicine. There's lots of kawakawa being made into ointments and all kinds of things. So go online and put kawakawa, spelled Kawawa. There's also books, many books on the New Zealand healing plants, Maori healing plants. So you can, they're just online, really simple.
Thank you so much, Hine, for that. Um, I think, there's a link for Linda Black Elk, for something from Linda Black Elk that was shared in the chat. Thank you, Rebecca, for that. And also, while we're just waiting a moment for another question to come through, I just want to announce, some of you may be aware that this is our last webinar for this part of this series, and it's been really fascinating. But we will be picking up again for the second half of this series, and many of the topics that we spoke about during this series will be revisited, but with different teachers and presenters. So I hope that you will all join us back. That'll happen in July. So keep checking our IITC, or International Indian Treaty Council website, for updates on that. And just before we start going back, um, let me just share that we will also be having a conference coming up on April 9th, a Tepary Bean conference. And I just shared the link for registration. You might find that interesting as well. Amy, I don't know if you want to share anything about the conference before we move on to something else.
Yes. So I welcome you all to join us for the second Bao Festival, or Bao Homify. Our community has been calling it different things, but we really wanted to have this gathering to honor and celebrate Bao, our tepary beans. Again, another superfood, especially because of its resiliency to grow with very little water. And so we wanted to make sure that that knowledge is being passed down about growing it, harvesting it, and eating it because of its nutritional value, but also because as we continue to see a changing climate, to see drought and very little water, we want to make sure that this is a food that is coming along with us to help take care of us and for us to take care of it. So the gathering will feature different farmers and food growers, food producers talking about bao, as well as some food demonstrations and things like that. And it'll occur in the morning, Friday the 9th and Saturday the 10th, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So I hope to see you there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. There are a couple of questions coming in. Um, Here we go. It says, this is from Chris. How can we encourage more Indigenous youth to learn about harvesting and using wild plants? So this is open to everyone.
Well, I think, in terms of working with, like Monique, or working with rangatahis, like with this grandson of mine and several other grandchildren, we planted a forest. They actually are part of watching it grow. He went to school about a year later, and they were studying medicine plants at school. And he was insistent. At my front door came a knock on a door, and it was the school teacher. And she got such a fright because my cane is a little pink. He's a little European little mix. And she says, "Do you have a grandson called Kane?" I said, "Yes, I do." "Wow," she said, "he says you have a rongoa forest at the back of your house." And I showed her. She says, "Oh my God." The whole school decided to come over there. I said, on one condition, that Kane, who at that time was 10, teach the rangatahi about each tree that he planted. And that the young people taught it themselves. I just stood there just waiting just to make sure that he was on track. Hey, but you know, quite often we're adult people go at the young ones and say, here you go. What if we asked them to ask, you know, and we swapped over position for a moment, because that's what we don't do. It's a very European Western paradigm that here's to fix it over here. We're the adults, so we're the ones who know. And what about you? You know, here you young people. The young people know intrinsically, and it's time we listen.
Thank you so much. I saw Rochelle, you had your hand up, and then we'll go to Monique.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I just wanted to share a little about what we're doing on Fond du Lac, and I know very similar things are happening throughout northern Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan, and I'm guessing across the medicine line to the north in Canada and the Anishinaabe nations up there as well. But for us at Fond du Lac, every summer we have a cultural and language camp, and I believe that that is the first place that we come back through our language to our original teachings, and they really focus on youth. So not only are they learning about how to traditionally harvest wild rice and take out the canoes, the birch bark canoes, and gather it, also harvesting the maple syrup, all through Anishinaabe Moan, or the Ojibwe language. And so the youth are learning the language at the same time they're getting in the boats. They're getting out to sugar bush, to the maple syrup trees, and we're encouraging this more and more each year. So I see youth really stepping it up in my region, and taking on understanding that this traditional knowledge that's being passed down to us is special, it's sacred, and it won't always be there. And it is our responsibility to our future generations to make sure that we're keeping these traditions going in their honor. So I just wanted to share that, Miigwech.
Home, Rochelle, that was beautiful. We'll go to Monique and then Amy, and then we'll wrap up on the comments because we're coming to the end of our program time.
So one of the things we did is we got a grant with 4-H and got into the reservation school on a Yurok reservation, and we planted, you know, regular garden stuff. But I had found a called Lost Foods Plant Nursery in Humboldt County, and he grows a lot of traditional indigenous plants from the area. And so I found this beauty. It's called Scotch Blossom, and it's actually a lettuce. So even though it doesn't look like a lettuce, you see that? So I took it out to the school and planted it, and it grew next to all the other lettuces that, you know, we eat normally. And did a test taste with some of the kids, the first grade class, and they tasted all the lettuce, and then they tasted the Scotch bloom. And this was the one that they selected as the best tasting lettuce, because it's not bitter. Lettuce tends to be bitter, right? And kids can really taste that. So this is actually kind of thick, almost like a aloe. You know, it's got some stuff on the inside and thick, and they love the flavor. So that was one way, you know, that we did that, but really taking them out and letting them touch and feel the plants and ID the plants. So whenever we go hiking, the first plant that I always point out is poison oak. And I can honestly say in all the years, I've never had a kid come home with poison oak. So we identify the poison oak, and then right next to it is going to be the mugwort or the wormwood, which gets rid of the poison oak. So we've got a poison oak. Everybody take a couple leaves of the mugwort and put it in your pocket. And if you think you even get near, you know, a poison oak or smell it or see it, you know, you can use that and wipe that on. So that was my first introduction actually to the mugwort and wormwood. Depends on where you're at, lower or higher elevation, what they call it, right? Some leaves are bigger and smaller, but it all works very similar. So that's also going to be like for the immune system. And even so I bought this to plant in our garden here where I live. And I also bought a elder tree, which, you know, we use for food and medicine and musical instruments. So that's really important. So like Hine said, bring your plants home. If you can't find them, you know, out in the wild, bring them home and grow them in your garden, make them part of your what you're teaching, right, in a daily basis. And even just tasting the plants. I did a traditional plant medicine for the Indian Health Clinic, and I would bring everything that I would gather, but I'd also go to the store and buy the teas in the tea bag or something, the elderberry tincture, all that kind of stuff, and bring it so that people, one, they didn't feel bad that they couldn't gather it, but two, that they know that they could purchase it easily and implement it into their diet.
Thank you. Amy, go ahead.
Yeah, so my experience, I'm really thankful to organizations like Tohono Community Action, who basically let us lead. I'm 34 now, and I got involved with them when I was about 23. And they basically let us create a youth program, Young Autumn United Through Health. And our work was planting school gardens, going into the school to do traditional food tastings with grades kindergarten through 12th grade, and just doing a lot of youth leadership work. And that really helped us to develop internships. We had a year-long internship program where I became a mentor to other young people. We had a group of about 12, and just committing the time. And it's not just about the work, but also that support, if they need transportation in the morning and back home, providing food and things like that, just making it really family and community oriented, to work as a team. And it built a lot of confidence and a lot of sense of purpose and identity. And I'm really happy to share that a lot of those young people, after I left that position, they took over, and they assumed responsibilities. And now that I'm older, it is a transition into, how do I become a mentor in that way. And I want to give a shout out to the Yorkum Youth Alliance and other youth in Goa District who are really leading the way in creating other opportunities for youth. So I've seen, the trickle down effect. These young people that I mentored are now in their early 20s, 2021, and are now mentoring high school and middle school students. And so, but what really gave them the confidence to do that was giving them the responsibility and the expectations, and the teachings and the support. So as long as they have that, there's really no limits to what they come up with, especially now with social media and videos and just different ways of sharing, making it fun. We also integrated hip hop, graffiti art, beat making, just bringing well, we said at the time it was making himduk cool again. Himduk is our way of life, and even though the himduk and the culture was the central foundation of it, we also brought in those other elements to make it interesting and fun and relevant to today's culture. So
Thank you.
that's what I had to share.
Thank you so much, Amy. Beautiful, beautiful stories, beautiful sharings from everyone. I want to say hahom ituno. Thank you to you, my relatives, Hinewirangi Kohu, Monique Sonoquie, Amy Juan, and Rochelle Diver for sharing all your knowledge with us today. It's been a real pleasure for me to moderate today's panel and all the panels that we've had in this series so far. My name's Roberto Mucaro Borrero, and just before we go, I want to thank the translators. We are a little bit over time, but thank you so much for them for sticking with us, Jimmy and Rebecca, of course. And also thank you so much to Chris Honani, who coordinates all of this behind the scenes. You see him speaking sometimes on the panels, but we really thank him for all he's doing. And finally, I have shared that link to the Tepri Bean gathering, so you can register there, and also to another gathering that we will have, a corn summit, Pueblo to Pueblo initiative, that's going to happen in May. So again, go to the IITC website to check out all the events and follow up information. Thank you to everyone who's been attending these webinars regularly, and for all the additional information that you share in the chats. I know people have posted links, etc. But right now we want to end and say again, once again, hahom to all the relatives out there, and remember those plant relatives as well. And thank you, and keep doing what you're all doing. So on behalf of the IITC, we're going to close it up. Chris, whenever you're ready. we can end the conference.